My name is Dominic Rubino. Welcome to the Cabinet Maker Profit System podcast, where it's all about cabinetry and millwork and how you can make more money and have more time. Really, it's about the simple systems that other shops are already using that you're trying to tie into so you can run this like a real business. Today, we're going to be interviewing Chad Hufford. It's about wealth management. As a matter of fact, we're going to be talking about blue collar millionaires and wealth creation, something that you're probably very interested in. Now, Chad's up in Alaska. He's living the life that we all dream of, or at least I dream of, where he gets to hunt and fish and also do great things for a living. So let's stay tuned, listen to what Chad has to say, and I'll see you on the other side. Chad Hufford, how are you?
I'm doing great, Dom. Great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you again as well. You and I have these great conversations that always lead to fishing and hunting. And the fact that you're in Alaska just makes me jealous.
Well, I'm jealous right now because my wife just sent me a text. This is maybe 20, 30 minutes before this of
Yeah.
my son in the sunshine, nothing but blue sky and the Kenai River behind him, sitting there with a fishing pole. But you know what? Somebody's got to work to
Somebody's
pay
got
for
to
the
work.
dock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe what you and I are talking about today can get people out fishing on the Kenai River or other places they want to fish.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here to help empower people to achieve the life of abundance that they desire.
I can hear it in your voice, man. Wow. Okay, listen. Let me start with this big question. Chad Hufford, who the heck are you? And how is it you come to be speaking to all these forward facing cabinet makers and mill workers and contractors all over the world?
Well, I think my why has always been to empower people to pursue a better version of themselves and to construct a life of abundance. And I say abundance, I mean way more than money. I mean, yes, that's what we do professionally, but to me, money, Dom, is just a tool to build a life
Mm,
of more freedom and meaning and purpose. And that has always kind of been my passion. It hasn't always been money, the tool I've used, but I've always been somebody who has helped people pursue a better version of themselves.
sure.
And you mentioned your audience a little bit. If building a more meaningful, purposeful life were easy, everybody would have one, and it's not. So why do I work with blue collar folks, with contractors, with electricians, with folks like this is because I think the tendency to have that grit
Mm,
and determination is more likely. And these are people that realize excellence isn't flashy. It's doing the
yeah.
simple things well, the things behind the scenes that not everybody else sees. But
Mm,
if you don't do them correctly, make a huge negative impact. And if you do them correctly, consistently, excellence is a choice we make every day. And
yep.
I think that blue collar folks realize that they're not here for accolades, they're not here for high fives. They just show up every day doing the small, simple, important things that can make a life transforming effect. So
Hmm.
that's why I'm here.
That's a pretty deep message for a guy that does wealth management.
I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean, but
I
no,
know. Well, because you know what? I did my research on you. You're not only wealth management, but you were a, how do I phrase this? You were a contractor for the military.
yes.
Is that said the right way? Now everybody's ears perked up. They're like, what does that
You
mean?
know what though? But it's a lot of the same stuff, Dom. So my
Yeah.
job was to prepare typically airborne troops for deployment,
Hmm.
mentally and physically.
Right.
And mentally was just as important as the physical.
100%.
And
Yeah.
building that grit, that determination, that resilience. What do you do when we did a lot of combatives, a lot of hand-to-hand MMA type stuff. Like, when your body, even in training, when you're getting choked out, your body doesn't know that you're in training. Your body's like, we're dying. Can
Fight or
you
flight. Yeah.
still, can you still think through what do I need to execute? What are the things I need to do? Can you still act rationally and precisely in a time of stress, those types of things. And with finances, it's the same thing. Okay, so your 401k looks like a 301k. Your life savings is down, 30% over the course of 6 months.
Yeah.
You got a major health emergency in the family, and you got $100,000 surprise bill. Like, what are you going to do? Can you still execute your plan with effectiveness in the midst of
Right.
stress? So I'm doing a lot of the same stuff I was doing 25 years ago. It's just the tools a little bit different, the tactics a little bit
Right.
different, but the mindset is still the
The mindset.
same.
it's funny how the mindset is such a big driver for success. And I've said this on the show before. We probably talk to 500 or 600 people a year. And contractors have a different gear. It's a hidden gear. It's a burning fire.
There's a
It's just,
grit. There's a grittiness to it.
they're going to win.
Yep.
And, unfortunately for lots of us, and it's included me in many times, I'm just going to do it through hard work. At some point you realize hard work's not enough. You have to do some smart work too. But that work ethic.
You can't, but there's a quote, I think it was Mark Twain. It might have been Thomas Edison. I can't remember which one, but something to the effect of opportunity comes along and it usually looks suspiciously like hard work.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why you and I love your audience so much is that they've already recognized I'm going to have to work at this.
Yeah. The hard work's a given.
Yeah. So much of our world, they're looking for a shortcut. They're looking for the easy button. They're looking for some pill. How can I lose 20 pounds of fat and have a six pack with no effort, not changing any of my habits? Well, there might be a drug for that, but in most areas of life, it's going to take some hard work if you want to improve. And I think for the folks you and I talk to, they realize there's going to be some sacrifices. There's going to be some hard work, but the payoff is going to be worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have to think about how many people actually take the kind of advice and guidance that we give on this show. And the way I like to say it is everybody was invited, but you chose to show up. But just by the fact that somebody's listening to this episode, they are the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. And so you might look around. I've done it myself. I look around. Everybody's doing the same thing. I do this with fishing spots, by the way. When I'm going fishing or hunting and I see another truck, I'm like, that guy's going to my same spot. No, he's not. He's doing something else. Like he's a timber cruiser or he's out taking pictures of flowers. But you think everybody's doing the same thing as you, and they're not.
Yeah.
They're not. And look, everything in success has been written. It's a book. It's just one symbol. I know you're a Dave Ramsey guy, right? It's a Dave Ramsey book. Hold that up. That book has a finite number of pages in it. It's not an ever expanding book. Just go learn the stuff in there and apply it. Just do that. Just stick to the work.
So I think your audience will appreciate this. I think that a lot of times education becomes entertainment because there's no execution in between. We learn stuff, we get knowledge, but if we don't execute what we know, and it's usually relatively simple stuff. I mean, yes, there's complexity, and I'm sure the jobs that your folks execute every day, there's complexity there, but most of life comes down to relatively simple principles. But simple and easy are not the same thing. People look for easy, but the answers are often in the simple, but it's usually hard. So what we do is we substitute complexity for simplicity because I think a lot of times we want to distance ourselves from the responsibility of acting. And maybe that's too philosophical, but we make problems more complicated than they need to be. So we can procrastinate, so we can step back and plan when the solutions are often
simple and brilliant and beautiful.
But they're hard. They're difficult. And that's what gets people tripped up. So yeah, and what you said about your audience, here's the term I would use. They're coachable. Like that's something that we really look for because if you're going to change your future, you actually have to want that change bad enough. And I tell my team all the time, we can't want a better life for somebody than they want for themselves.
Right. Yeah.
But people that are willing to not just learn, but to do things differently. We can't keep doing the same thing we've always done and expect different results. And further than that, we can't do what everybody else is doing unless we're willing to accept the results that they're getting. So if you want that secret fishing hole that's better than what everybody else is getting, you've got to be willing to work for it and search for it a little bit. So
I'll tell you. So we need to get to the topic here today. But I'm just gonna add one thing. I went hunting. As of today, it was 2 weeks ago. And the video just came out on YouTube if anybody wants to see it. It's me hunting with a guy named Ashley Stuckless. He's got a really popular hunting channel for a very small niche, which is people that want to do Western style hunting. And what does that mean? Chad, this is probably normal for you. It means hiking into the Alpine through blowdown, through swamps, when nobody else will. When it looks impassable, that's exactly when Ashley says, "Oh, we're going over there." Beyond anything I've ever learned in hunting before. It's absolutely cross country, the hardest, the ugliest scree slopes and traverses I've ever seen was his happy place. And I'm like, okay, I've been doing it wrong. Getting out of my comfort. I'm willing to do the work, but I didn't know this was the work I had to do. So anyways.
Wow. Well, okay. So I just said this earlier today. We were talking to a group, and it was just exactly what you said. Are you willing to do the things that other people won't to get to a place where they won't be?
Do you feel like you're making it all up as you go along? Well, if that's the case and you're running a good business, but you know it could be great, why don't you take a step back with me and do a professional development assessment? It's called How to Find My Blind Spots. It's 20 questions. You score yourself on a score of 1 to 5. And at the end, you tally up your own score. You could do it over a cup of coffee. It's real easy. And as I said, you can do it all on your own. If you want the blind spots assessment, shoot me a text message. My cell phone number, as you know, is 315-903-7853. Just say blind spots and I'll send it on back. Right.
Now, I was talking about not out in the wilderness, but it's that same idea. Are you willing to do the work that others won't do to get to a
Yeah.
destination that most people will never experience?
Love it. Well, let's get to the topic because I bet you it's going to come up again there. So the reason I found you, tracked you down, is I wanted to talk to somebody who understood the blue collar lifestyle, the blue
Hmm.
collar cash flow cycles, the reality of the business world for blue collar people, and talk about how we can do wealth planning, how we can take blue collar people and build a legacy for their family. So I'll turn it
Absolutely.
over to you. Let me just start with that as the topic and see where you want to take us.
Well, one of the things that we often come up against is people who have told themselves, I don't have the education, the background, the
Mm,
experience in finances to build a financial legacy, to build this. We don't even call it retirement because Dom, the types of people that you and I talk to are the worst types of people to have 25 years of weekends ahead of them, right? So we call it a job optional lifestyle where
oh,
you no longer require your paycheck.
right.
You have enough financial dependence that you can pin your ears back and pursue your purpose with an intensity and precision you've never been able to do before because you don't have to go to work and you don't have to go to your job anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But that takes a significant amount of planning and saving and patience, but it doesn't require a ton of investment expertise or knowledge. It's really more of a character thing
Mm,
than a knowledge thing. There's a lot of very smart people in this world that know a ton about investing that don't make those decisions in their own life. And I'll just give you a metaphor. It's actually a real thing, but one of uh, one of the folks on my team is working with a guy who's a cardiologist that smokes a couple packs a day.
okay.
And it's like the guy knows more about the human heart than almost anybody else in my state,
Yeah.
and much more than you and I, but he's still not executing that knowledge. He's not
Right.
doing the things. So he has a lot of knowledge, incredibly intelligent guy, but he's still doing very detrimental things despite that. But the flip side is also true. You don't have to know the eccentricities of the human heart to live a healthy lifestyle. And you don't have to know the ins and outs and nuances of investing and financial planning to build a wonderful financial house and a great
I
financial trajectory.
it's such a great point. You know, the people that come into the trades, especially this show is for cabinet makers and mill workers and people in the closet industry. You don't have to know how to read a balance sheet and a P&L. You don't have to be a CPA or a lawyer to be successful. As a matter of fact, I'd argue against both of those trades, against being a CPA and against being a lawyer. Just run a good business and focus on the key numbers that give you the right kind of results.
And you can hire those people. You can
I
do what
know.
you do best, and then
Yeah.
hire the people that want to sit behind
Yeah.
spreadsheets and crunch numbers, right?
Yeah. I got a
So
guy. You want to be the guy who says, I got a guy.
well, and it's getting people out of that the fear of the unknown, thinking that they have to get all this stuff figured out themselves. They don't. It's you have to have discipline. You have to have patience. You have to have some perseverance. You have to have resilience. But they're character qualities that any of us can grow. You don't have to have a PhD in finance. In fact, that might actually get in your way because the tendency would be to overanalyze the things that just simply have to go out
Yeah.
and do the hard work.
You know, I take that advice myself in my business when it comes to running ads online.
Hmm.
There is no way I'm ever going to learn how Meta, Facebook and Instagram works from a paid ads angle. Why would I try? And I look at kitchen rental people and cabinet makers, and they're trying to learn their own search engine optimization and how to run Meta ads. I'm like, rent a guy, Get somebody who knows how to do it. They do it 24/7. That's all they think about. That's all they dream about. That's all they sleep about. I wouldn't ask that guy to build a kitchen for me. Why would you ask me to build my own SEO?
Hmm. No, that's
Right?
good. That's good.
So you've got to figure out where to put your time. Now, I need to know enough to not get snowed by somebody, but yeah, find an expert and follow the scent trail of success.
Well, and part of that too is just having a blueprint for what you want life to look like. So, if you're making cabinets, there's some sort of a blueprint that somebody's going to follow,
Right.
based on the dimensions and the desires of the customer and things like that. There's going to be a plan. Now, as we all know, you start building these custom cabinets, and then the owner of the house starts changing the plans on you. So you revise the plan, right?
Right.
So they change the dimensions, they change the style. So you revise, you revisit, and then you pivot a little bit. And that's the same thing with financial planning. But most people would not buy a house that was built without a blueprint, but we build our futures without one all the time. So,
You haven't seen the cabin my father built.
well,
Well, maybe you have.
I I mean, here in Alaska, there's a lot of homes that look like they were built without a blueprint. There's no plan, like there's no design or flow. It seems like a bunch of pieces and parts that got thrown together at the last minute. But again, that's how a lot of people plan for their futures and invest. And I would say that, Don, there's a world of difference between somebody who is building strategically based on desired outcomes, following a blueprint that guides
Yeah.
their saving investing decisions, opposed to the person who merely collects investments for 35 years and then tries to slap them all together when they're 58 years old and they want to retire in 3 years.
Yeah. Are you without using names, are you able to tell us a good news story and maybe a cautionary tale?
Okay, yeah. So I was talking to a guy yesterday. We'll start with the cautionary tale because this was literally yesterday. Um, Guy owns a contracting company, and does really, really well. Is actually last few years been making seven figures, and he has zero retirement, and he has a business with no succession plan. Now that's what we're working on right now, trying to help him with a little bit, but he wants to retire in a couple of years and is almost starting from scratch other than cash flow. And what was happening over the course of this career, and you can relate to this, you're starting a business, all of your cash goes somewhere. And you've got the book Profit First behind you, which is a
Right. Yeah.
phenomenal book if your
Yeah.
audience has not read that. But it's the idea of you got to pay your future self first. At some point, you got to start paying your future self. If you don't build the habit, it never happens.
Right.
So when you start your business, you might be barely making ends meet. So you're not even worried about your future self because your future self is going to starve to death if your current self
If your
can't
current
make
self can't
payroll.
make, yeah,
Yeah,
mac and cheese. Yeah.
but you've got to start the habit because what happened with this guy is his income grew significantly over the years. He's very, very successful, but his spending habits did as well. So, Dom, as you know, I've got six kids.
Uh,
Kids are like money. If you don't tell them what to do and get them working productively, they're
yeah.
going to disappear and do things they probably shouldn't be doing.
Well, with six, they probably gang up on you as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, go to bed with one eye open, you know? But money's kind of the same way, where if you don't tell it what to do, it's
Yeah.
going to hide from you. And you're just going to end up at the end of your month wondering where it all went. So unless you are intentional, starting to direct your money, starting to essentially pay the future version of yourself,
Mhm.
you'll never make enough money where you're like, oh, this is a great time for me to cut out 15% of my income and put it towards my future. That's never convenient.
Yeah.
Just like
No, but
it's
it has to be done.
it has to be done.
Yeah. How many of us have been in a situation, and as the people listening to the show are all kind of around the same age. There might be a few in their 30s, but most of us are in our 40s, 50s, and 60s. How many of us have looked at our parents' estates or maybe had to be the executor and looked at it and went, oh my gosh, what are we working with here?
Yeah.
If only they had, and they probably did great based on what they knew, but if only they had done something else in the past, and I want to leave my kids a lot.
Well, and one of the questions we ask people all the time is you probably don't have a plan to run out of money in retirement, but do you
No,
have a plan not to? And a
that's a
lot of
great
people
say that. You
don't
got to
have
say that one again, Chad. Say
you
it again.
probably don't have a plan to run out of money in retirement, but do you have a plan not to? So
Yeah.
you asked for a positive. Can I give you a positive
Yeah,
example?
absolutely.
Okay. So we gave the cautionary tale. Let me give you a positive example. So there's a couple that we work with, just started working with them a few years ago, and husband is a carpenter. And so just so folks know, if you're not familiar with rural Alaska, um, it is a these are some of these villages are not even, there's no road access. I say like no road, it's not like there's no paved roads, like there is no road. You can
Mm.
get there only by boat or by plane, and sometimes even during certain times of the year, incredibly remote. It's like you go to the middle of nowhere and then you go 100 miles past that,
Go
right?
left. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like Arctic Circle type stuff.
Sure.
Well, you can
Crazy.
imagine it's very hard to get good, consistent, dependable help out there. Well, also, because of a lot of things that we need to get into, we have a tendency in Alaska, we have a very high incidence of drug and alcohol abuse, especially out in the villages. So
Mm.
there's a darkness to it. There's some really sad. It's almost like third world uh,
Mm.
villages here in Alaska. Um, well, what this couple did is so they were able to retire with not just enough money to live comfortably, but because of his background, he goes into villages to help with remodels and things like that. So they love him. Like he'll remodel schools and
Oh,
churches
wow.
and things like
Yeah.
so he uses his carpentry. And then his wife, who was an engineer, but she has a theology degree and very, very well educated. So she goes in, and a lot of the school systems, these villages are it, they're um, very itinerant. So people come and go, and there's
Oh,
not
okay.
people building relationships with these kids. So she goes in and teaches these supplements the education they have and but their entry into that is, hey, you're working on these projects. You don't have anybody to help you. Let me come in and help. We'll fix your deck. We'll put up this siding. We'll do this. We'll do that. And so they both have decades of experience, but because they don't need a paycheck anymore, they can take that and give it to
Oh,
a people
nice.
group that
Okay.
could never afford what they have to offer and just be a glimpse of light and hope in what can otherwise be a pretty dark scenario.
Wow. So that is a great good news story. They're giving back with everything they put together in the beginning.
Yeah, and they're
Yeah.
and they're still working hard, but they're able to do it on their terms, where they want to, when they want to, because they don't rely on a paycheck. I mean, they're like self-supported missionaries essentially,
Yeah. I was going to say it
and
sounds like ministry
it
in a way.
is,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And but they're able to do that and not have to ask for donation. They can do this, not charge anybody, and not ask for anything because they're completely self-supported. That's pretty special way to live.
Yeah. It's funny because earlier you were talking about we have to do the things that other people don't, and or we're going to get the same results as everybody else. That thinking is the root of this. Like we have to get to a place where we're thinking about wealth and look how we're charging for jobs. We have to think about it differently than the next guy. But then what we're doing with our money, we have to think about differently. When you sit down with somebody who's doing well, let's just say they're doing well, but small W well, and they've just
Hmm.
come to you, they've got a decent business. It's okay. It's better than okay. It's doing well. How do you start them down the path of this, wealth creation so they can build a legacy for their family?
Well, going back to the couple that we just talked about, it's getting them to think beyond their career. Okay, you've built this business, you've got this great job, it's going well. What do you want life to look like if you didn't have to run the business anymore?
Hmm.
Like what
Oh, that's a big one.
it
How
is.
many of
And
us are wrapped up in the identity of I'm a carpenter, so I'm a carpenter? Not I
well,
want people to be a business person who happens to be a carpenter.
and kind of to your point there, it's like a lot of your listeners, I'm sure, are the CEO, they're the chief everything officer. They're doing all that and getting them like you're just trying to put out fire stuff that getting people to think not 20 days down the road, which is hard enough, but 20 years, what do you want your life to look like if you never needed to produce a paycheck ever again? What do you want your house to feel like when you step in the door? Who's around you? Like what
Jeez.
what are you going to pursue? What is the meaningful purpose that you're going to pin your ears back and go after if you weren't running your business anymore? And getting them
Mm,
to think beyond the finances, but getting to think of the lifestyle they want. What is the abundant lifestyle to them? And then we attach some numbers to that. Okay, so they describe what that might look like. It was
yeah.
traveling, it's hobbies, it might be ministry, it might be coaching their kids' soccer. See, I don't know. But what gets you up every morning and makes life amazing? What fills your heart?
Right.
And then we attach some financial goals to that. What that does, it gives us a target. It gives us something that we can aim at. And then we reverse engineer it. We find out where you are today,
Yeah.
get an idea of where you are at in the future, and then we start developing the plan to close that gap.
Sure.
So just think about it. You mentioned hunting the other day, a couple weeks ago, and um, you're if you're sighting in a rifle, you need some sort of reference point. You need to know where that if you put a new optic on a rifle, you need to know where that
Right.
rifle hits. You don't need that shot doesn't need to be perfect. So a lot of people can go overwhelmed. Well, I don't know what I want my life to look like or how much it's
Yeah.
going to cost, but we need a reference point. We need a target to aim at because we want to be proactive and not reactive. And
Nice.
if you get a really good sense of where that rifle hits, you get a shot on paper, then
Yeah.
you slowly fine tune it. You get those crosshairs to line up with exactly the point of impact. But sometimes your target moves. Well, if you know where your plan hits 15, 20 years in the future and your objective changes, you get back on site really, really quickly. But
Really
the
fast. Yeah.
really, really fast. Even if your scope doesn't dial, you don't have one of these fancy things that looks like a computer sitting on top of your gun. If you know your equipment, you can get back on site and make the adjustments necessary to be extremely accurate. The same thing goes with the financial plan.
Yeah.
Even as your goals change, you have a plan adapted to objective X. If objective X switch to objective Y, you get back on track very quickly. The problem is people don't know where their plan hits. They have no idea at their current trajectory where they're going to be in 15, 20 years or where they need to be in 15, 20 years.
Right.
It's really hard to hit a target that you can't see.
Yeah. It sounds, as I listen to you, it sounds like the very first thing is like find somebody and have this conversation. Because,
Have somebody to pull you out of the moment, getting you thinking about 15, 20 years down the road and helping you envision what you what you want your life to look like because a beautiful abundant life doesn't happen by accident. You're not going to trip into this. It requires incredible intentionality, and sometimes it helps to have somebody pull you out of the moment and give you the freedom to dream a little bit.
yeah. But it's the same thing that we do with clients, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you're building them a beautiful kitchen or renovating a home or doing their dream closet. You want to say, what, I know this is what you asked for, but it doesn't sound like you've considered this. And you show them something somebody else did, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. And you're like, it is possible. And then again, to your point, having a plan, you just go back to the blueprints.
Yes. And that's exact. So I don't know if I told you this in our previous conversations. My wife and I built a home about 6 years ago, had it built. We didn't do much of the work, but I got tricked into this entire process because my wife saw this home that this custom builder had built, who had built a couple homes for friends. And she's like, I love everything about it. I love the cabinets, the countertops, the tile, like everything. We're gonna add a basement. We're gonna add a schoolroom because we
Right.
homeschool our kids. So my mom did that to me. So I'm paying it forward or whatever, however you want to look at it. But
Right.
so we need a schoolroom and we needed a basement. And she's like, everything else, the paint
Oh,
schemes, like the carpet, the flooring, all of it. We 90% of our decisions are already made. I'm like, that's great. I was so naive. The only thing that survived that process
was the roof.
was the flooring.
Oh, really?
The flooring was the only thing. Everything else got changed. The tile, the counters, the backsplash, the appliances, everything, the paint, the color schemes. But we always had a plan. We always had a blueprint that we were following, a
And a
diagram that was,
reference point of your friend's house.
yeah, exactly. It
Yeah.
was guiding our decisions as we continued to build. So we always had something that was realigning us. It was keeping us in our lane so we didn't get off crazy. And exactly like you said, people coaching us through the process, saying, okay, this is what you asked for. But what I'm hearing is this is what you really want, and suggesting maybe even a
Mm,
better alternative. Like, yes, that's exactly we don't, but we never built a home before. We didn't know what questions to ask. We
right.
found somebody who could coach us through and say, hey, I'm hearing what is valuable and important to your life. How about if we did this? Does would that check that box for you? And we had a
Right.
builder that was his name's Eric. It was amazing and just did a phenomenal job taking what we said we wanted and actually finding real solutions and then creating a blueprint that bridged the gap between where we were
Mm-hmm.
and the finished house. And 5, 6 years later, that house has become a home, and it was a beautiful process.
And so the story you just told could have been a financial plan. You just talked about it as an architectural plan for
It's the
building.
same process.
It's the
It's the
same
same
process. I know
Yep.
it's the, but you need that person to walk you through it. You just need somebody who's been there before and can also give you the cautionary tales. Don't go down this path.
Yep.
I'm not anti crypto or Bitcoin, but maybe that's the solution for some people. Maybe it's not for others. Maybe one of the things that I see a lot is people wanting to own their own real estate. Because they know
Yeah.
they're renting or leasing, and they realize they're dumping 3-5 grand a month to a landlord, and that they're just losing that equity. So in some markets it doesn't make sense because the pricing of property is out of control. In other ones it makes all sorts of sense, but everybody's situation is different. And that's one of the things I see a lot people building legacy plans is having money set aside in some sort of real estate vehicle.
Well, and kind of go back to this, it's having a plan that's tailored to you,
Mm,
not a cookie cutter off the shelf. We're not talking about building spec homes. We're talking about custom homes. Like this is craftsmanship, financially speaking.
mm.
It should be geared towards what you and your family are trying to accomplish long term, not what somebody who looks like you or is your same age or in some sort of demographic bubble as you. Because just use that as an example, like for some people that can be incredibly strategic to own real estate. For other people, if your business is changing too much, I've seen a lot of people that buy a piece of real estate for their business, and now they start making business decisions based on the real estate that they have. Well, we can't adopt this
Oh,
new
I see.
product, or we can't build this new thing or add this enhancement because it doesn't fit with our building. So now they're making business decisions based on the walls around them, literally and metaphorically, rather than what does their
Mm,
company actually need to succeed. They're viewing everything through the limitations of the real estate that they purchased. But at the same time, you don't want to be somebody who for 30 years is renting from the exact same space and could have owned the whole block by now. So
right.
it's getting it tailored to what your individual needs are. And that's what I think this all comes down to is this isn't about average. I mean, we don't want average.
Yeah.
Nobody listening to this wants average. We want something tailored to us based on our objectives, our needs, and making sure that what we do today still aligns with that much better than average future.
Right. What we need in the future. Yeah. So many questions come to mind. Most of the people that listen to this show are very family focused. And so you've got 6 kids. Can I use you as an example?
Sure.
That's 6 weddings. Wait,
Yeah.
before that, it's 6 vehicles, six
No, no, oh,
college.
well, hold on a second.
Oh, wait,
It's not
what?
6 vehicles. My daughter, she turns 17 in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. She turned 17 3 weeks. She's been driving for less than a year. She's already on her third vehicle because she
Hope,
she wrecked the first two.
okay, I was going to say, hopefully
She
it's all
was
good news.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was okay. The vehicles were not. So we're already on number 3 for our first kid. So at this rate, we're looking at 18 vehicles, not
18 vehicles,
six.
right? But you're going to, you know what I mean? You're going to help them with
I'm just
vehicles. Let's
teasing.
just say,
Yeah.
then some want to go to college, some don't. Everybody's got their path, right? So you've got that. Then you've got some family vacations, but then you've got 6 weddings to take care of, maybe helping out, and your math is yours is 6. Other people have 1 kid, no kids, 2 kids, and you buy your own car, whatever. Just like you said, it's everybody else's, each person has their own decision to make. But I don't want to go through life assuming that it's going to be the way it is today forever. There's going to be surprises that pop up. There's going to be things I need to do. The family might need to travel to the other side of the country for some reason for a short. I have to have that flexibility, and money gives me choice. That's
Money
all I
gives
want.
you money
Gives me,
gives you options and
yeah,
it provides a certain amount of autonomy and freedom. Absolutely.
yeah. And then with I know that money gives me choice, but I can also understand the discipline that I have to say that money can also make me fat and lazy, because people that try to solve problems with money are missing the point. I can solve any problem by being
Hmm.
clever, especially when it comes to the actual operations of the business. I can be clever, but throwing money at a problem generally doesn't solve it. Now, in making sure my family's taken care of, I don't want to do that. I want to have a very prescribed, systematic way to make sure that things are okay so that everybody's good. That's me. I say too
Well,
much.
the metaphor we use is like you can throw money at problems, make them go away. Governments try that, and you can see how well that works. But it's like if there's potholes in your path, you can try to fill them with money, but it's probably better just to fix the path ahead, right? Um, but no, you're right. And I would say one other thing about money. Money is a tool. We talked about at the very beginning. Money is just a tool. It
Yeah.
is amoral. It is not good or bad. It is just a tool. But money can bring freedom. It can bring independence. It can also bring comfort. And that's where we got to get careful. And this is a whole other conversation. So I'm just going to sprinkle this on, real be brief with it. But comfort, if you're not careful, often leads to complacency, and
Mm.
complacency, left unchecked, leads to compromise. So I think it's important that even as people achieve financial independence, that they don't allow themselves to get too comfortable. You said fat and lazy. It could look a lot of different things, right?
Right.
But comfort should never be the goal. It should be impact. It should be flexibility, freedom. Like I've got 6 kids. We're probably gonna have a lot of grandkids. I want to be able to meddle in the lives of my kids for the rest of my life, regardless of where they live. And we will travel and visit. I've got a
Right.
job where I can work from anywhere. And yeah, I'm
I
gonna
want to meddle in
embarrass
their lives from anywhere.
exactly. That's what I want. But I don't want comfort to ever be my goal. I want it to be purpose and impact.
I love it. Hey, Chad, we've covered so much real estate, like so much ground today, not real estate. We just covered a lot of ground. If somebody wants to continue the conversation or start up the conversation with you, how do we find you in this crazy world?
VeritasAlaska.com is our website. We're veritas.alaska on Instagram. And don't let the Alaska fool you. We work with people from all over, but we founded here in Alaska, so it's got some cachet. So we keep it in the URL.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Great to have you here. And you have a shared background with so many people on the show, the homeschooling, the love of family, the outdoors lifestyle, all of those things. So many of us here share. So it's nice to hear from your perspective that path. You know, we can all do those things and still have what we need to take care of our family.
Well, Dom, it's been a pleasure, really an honor to be able to talk to you and encourage your audience. And like I said at the beginning, hopefully empower them to pursue a life of abundance.
Awesome. Thanks, Chad. Well, well, well. Thank you, Chad, for joining us for the interview. I really enjoyed it. You saw we had a couple of good laughs, but also some great insights into wealth creation and wealth management. Um, One of the things that we didn't hit on was the dad jokes and the fact that a few months ago people told us to take the dad jokes out of the episode. And here we are talking about wealth, and there's a dad joke that goes perfectly with that. You know what do you know about how much money a skunk makes? Well, he makes 1 cent. See, I should have worked that into the conversation. But I know you're going to try and use that, all you listeners out there in the world. Listen, this podcast is a thin excuse for us actually sitting down across a table, having a cup of coffee or a glass of wine together. And that's really what I'm looking forward to. We'll see you on the next episode, folks. Have a great day.